What is up, everybody? This is the Couple on Fire podcast, and on today's episode, we're actually going to talk about a pretty huge subject, big topic, how to start over in life, and that's coming up
right now.
Are you a Christian and you are looking to take your faith, your family, and your future to the next level?
Then this is the channel for you.
Season 2, Episode 6. That's where we are at. Welcome to the show today. Please do us a favor and share. Hit the share button. Hit the share. Hit the share. Sharing is caring. Hit the share button. So if you could, please help us out by sharing our episode. There. I think I said it a few times for everybody.
Share.
That's not enough shares for you. A couple more shares. Maybe I'll say it later. I need to make a song out of it, like share, whatever. So
sharing is caring.
Yes, sharing is caring. Hey, it's the only way that our episode ever gets out into the Facebook world. So it's the only way. So without the sharing, we don't get the caring. So hit the hearts, hit the thumbs up, do all the fun stuff.
Rhyme something with algorithm.
It would be the M. That was all I could get.
Algorithm.
Yeah. I don't know. Right now my mind's going like, I want to think of something that rhymes with algorithm. Algorithm. I don't know. Whatever. If anybody can rap that, please let us know. So on today's episode, it's going to be pretty deep conversation I think we're going to have in this one today, because something that Kristy and I have had happen in our lives is we've had to actually start over. We've had to start our entire life over. We lived one specific way for many, many years, all the way until our 30s. And in the last 10 years, we've literally started all over again. And that can be really challenging, and not just challenging when you're doing it, but challenging saying, is this a decision that I want to make? Is this something that I want to choose to do? Now, there's different ways that we can have changes or major life change, is either in a position to where we don't get a choice, right? We can get into an accident or some form of an addiction or something that's going to cause us to have a major change. Or we can say, you know what? I'm tired of living the way that I've lived for all these years. I want to make a choice and make these changes. So today we want to talk about a little bit about what it means and what the things that it takes really to make those changes and to start all over in life. You have anything you want to add?
No.
Before we get
it's really hard. I mean, it's really hard, but it can be done.
It is hard. I think when it comes to starting over in life, people think that's such a huge, huge task. That's a huge thing to undertake. That they get defeated in the sense of even beginning doing it. And it's because I believe, anyway, in my personal opinion, in starting over my own life, is you have to take it small little pieces at a time. You have to do little things at a time to work towards the end goal of what you're looking for. A lot of it, though, is that we don't perceive ourselves. We look at ourselves the way that we've always been. So it's hard for us to see ourselves the way that we want to be or the direction that we want to go. We don't feel like we fit in because you don't. And we feel like we don't belong because you haven't. And so it's really hard for us to make those changes leading into starting over a whole new life.
That's what I was just going to say, is that a lot of times the starting over is so overwhelming to people because they can't picture it any different. So a lot of it is the mindset. Like, you've always known your life this way, and then all of a sudden you have to start over. It's so overwhelming because you can't picture what it's going to look like. It's new and unknown, and it seems like it's so big, like such a big like mountain to climb. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just a small backstory, for myself, and I'm sure Kristy can chime in on a lot of this. She's been part of almost the very beginning of when everything changed for my life personally, and I know for her as well. But, Kristy and I got together almost 10 years ago, almost exactly 10 years ago. Yeah. It's coming up to be 10 years here this time of year. And at that time, I was about a year and a half into my sobriety. If you've ever listened to any of these other episodes, you know that I come from alcoholism. I had a long years into my 30s, early 30s, and really heavy drinking I mean, a 30 pack a night with a half a fifth if it wasn't enough. I mean, I was really, really deep down into drinking, and I knew that something needed to change, and I just didn't know how that was going to happen. And, I really felt like God really spoke into my life one day and said, you need to start relying on me, and you just need to start. And, I picked up the phone, I called my mom, and mom was a fantastic support system in the beginning of this. And I told my mom, I remember looking at my mom early on, and I looked at her and I'm like, nobody's ever going to like me. I'm going to lose all my friends. And, no, I'm never going to get remarried because I had recently gotten divorced. I'm never going to find that right person. Like, I'm just going to be a dull, horrible, dry, non-fun person for the rest of my life. And I actually thought that. I believed that about myself because I was so entranced into what I thought that alcohol made me. And so doing that changeover, making that change now, I look back at myself and I look at my life with Kristy and our children and stuff, and it's not even almost, it's two different people. It's really two different people, but it all started with a single decision to move into the right direction, and then a year and a half of my sobriety, Kristy reached out to me, and, she had said that she was being divorced, and, I had known her for years before. And I just, took a chance. I took a leap of faith, and we started talking, and, God really paved the road ahead for that. And so many amazing things have come from it. But it all started from a single decision,
Mm-hmm.
Life start is changing into a new direction is not easy. And it wasn't an easy choice. And I could have still chosen to continue down the same road that I chose because I didn't understand. And at the time, I didn't believe that things could get better. But that was a choice that I made. So 10 years.
Yeah.
It's been 10.
Like December.
Yeah.
Technically, New Year's Eve is when we made it official because that's when you took me to your family's house.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Technically.
What's up, Sean Romero? Sean Romero. What's up, buddy?
Hi, Sean. Hi.
So, number one, the very first thing we want to talk about today, the first thing that we believe is important about doing a new change is be honest with who or where you are. Who and where you are.
Yeah, this is when Josh and I were talking about it. This is probably my favorite one because I was telling him this is the point that was my point. He came up with the other 2 points.
You're so funny.
That's why it's my favorite, probably.
You're so funny.
No, this one's my favorite because a big part of starting over and being able to start over and move forward is being honest with yourself about where you are and who you are. So when I decided to start over in my life, it was a very scary decision. I had been married for 10 years already, with him for 11. We had 2 kids, and I made the decision, very long story short, to end that relationship and move forward. And then I was an alcoholic at the time too. And so when I decided to get the divorce and move in with my grandparents, I decided I was going to go back to church and turn my life back over to God but I wasn't going to quit drinking. And at the time that completely made sense in my very sick head, I'm going to commit my life back over to God, but I couldn't see myself not drinking. It was just a part of who I was. And when someone's sick in addiction, things don't make sense. Looking back on it now, I'm like, that is so weird. But over the course of getting healthy, going through 12 steps, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be the 12 steps. If you work through sobriety, which is what I did, looking back, and then after I worked a 12-step program, I was already sober when I went into a 12-step program for Celebrate Recovery. It was amazing and jaw-dropping to me that I actually went through the steps in order as I was healing, in that order. So it just makes sense that AA puts them in that order, or Celebrate Recovery puts them in that order. And it's based off of the Sermon on the Mount, out of the Bible. So God knows what he's doing, right? So what's so important is being honest with who you are. And as soon as you're honest with who you are, you become more confident in who you are. And I'm talking about the bad decisions that you've made. You can't do anything about them. You can go back and make amends to people that you've hurt, but you can't erase the past. And so accepting it and not necessarily being proud of it, but embracing it. Embrace the suck, is what Josh and I like to say. Embracing it and saying, because that's truly when you're like, okay, this is where I'm at, completely honest, raw. Then you can start moving forward. And that was the most freeing time for me when God was changing me from a caterpillar into a butterfly. Like, my whole healing process is that, people would look at me, call me up, old friends, my ex-husband, people would say, oh, well, who do you think you are? You used to do that, or you used to do that. And I would say, yeah, I did. I don't anymore. And a lot of people, when they first start healing, they don't want to talk about it. I've noticed that with some people, where people from their past will come back and say, well, you used to do this. And they'd be like, oh, no, and they don't want to talk about it. And you just being honest with yourself and embracing who you were, the decisions you made, and where you're moving forward to, it's so powerful, because no one else, what they say or think, matters. It just matters who you are and who God made you to be. And you have to know where you're at in order to go up. You have to start on the bottom rung, and it sucks, but you have to start. And if you lie to yourself, if someone's like, well, you've always been a liar, and you're like, no, I haven't, you're lying, so it's like, just be honest.
Yeah, it's almost like, I love how you said caterpillar to a butterfly, though. Like, you have to be willing to call yourself a caterpillar, though.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're in life, we're not willing to accept that the position we're in, that we need to get rid of that type of person that we are, and be honest. Like you said about the whole, like, you're a liar. No, I'm not. Like, call a spade. Like, yeah, you're, if you're doing the things and you've been the person that you don't want to be anymore, you have to be willing to admit that. You have to say, you know what? I need to be honest with myself and say, okay, this is a starting place in my life. This is where I need to start from.
Yeah.
It's the only way we can move forward now. We have to be willing to be vulnerable and honest with ourselves and with where we're at. And then, okay, this is where I want to go. This is the direction I'm looking to take my life. But if we don't have a starting point, and we're not willing to shed all that extra baggage and that weight of who we are, or the caterpillar, we'll never transform. We'll never get into that. We won't take our lives and truly transform them into the way that we want them to be done. I mean, so many people we see all the time that have big aspirations and big dreams and all this audaciously awesome stuff, but they're just not willing to be honest with themselves about who they are now. They're not willing to. I've heard this before. I know you've heard this before. You've probably heard this before, but they say that if you keep having bad friendships and bad relationships, it's not the people. Okay, you keep taking the problem with you, and that's you. We are the problem. And if we're not willing to look at ourselves and be, self-aware of what's going on and being deeply honest with ourselves about it, we'll never reach into this new life that we're trying to attach ourselves to. We won't.
Well, the thing about it is that a lot of times when we have to start all over, a lot of it came tumbling down or crumbling down portions of our life and stuff is because we weren't being our true authentic self. And then when we start, if we're not honest with ourselves and we're trying to put on this facade, and then we start moving forward from there, you're building your foundation on a lie. Yeah. And eventually you're going to be putting in all this work and it's just going to come crashing down again. You might as well just build the foundation of the rubble of where you're at. Yeah. If you lost your job, if you have to start over again in your career. And Josh and I had to do that. Like, after, I don't know if many of you out there have been divorced, and divorce sucks. And it's so hard, especially if you have children and you have to start sharing holidays and birthdays with, be fair, to the other parent, and you have to start all over. You have to split everything. So you have to start over. You have to move into an apartment or get another house, and you have to separate all your bills, get a new car. It's just, you have to start all over. And then if you're an addiction and then it comes out and you've been hiding it and you have to start all over, all of those things are very, very hard things to do. And it's actually good though. Like, once it all just rips down, it all falls. It's like, take that as a blessing that you can just start and move forward honest. Like, you can be your authentic self. There's nothing more to hold up. No more masks. Nothing. You can just start moving forward and be who you need to be for God and for yourself.
A lot of people think too, like I'm too old to start over, right? Like my age, like I'm at a position in my life right now where I'm too old. I can't start over again. And that's just a lie. There's so many success stories of people. Now, wouldn't consider myself old or us old in our lives, but I would say that we started over later in our lives. I mean, we were in our mid 30s when we started over, some people are going to be in their mid 40s, mid 50s when they start over, but it's never too early or too late to start your life completely over.
Yeah.
Are you looking for something?
Yes. I found this picture and I screenshot it. Oh, right here. I should have sent it to you so you could have put it up on the screen. But I screenshot it so I could read it for here. And it says, for what it's worth, it's never too late to be whoever you want to be. I hope you live a life you're proud of. And if you find that you're not, I hope you have the strength to start over. And it's F. Scott Fitzgerald. It's quote. And I love that quote.
Oh, that's powerful.
Love it.
That's powerful. Okay, let's move on to number two. Pick up the anchor.
So and this was Josh's point, and I do like this point, but when he was telling me, like, pick up the anchor, and you always do water stuff.
I know.
That's so funny.
I know.
But when he brought up this point, like, we need to let go of the stuff that's holding us back, in my mind, I envision, like, this huge battleship, and they have this huge, gigantuous anchor that's down in the ocean and they can't go anywhere because of this. And I envision them cutting the rope and just letting the anchor go. Don't worry about the anchor. Don't pull it back up. You just get rid of it because you want to just keep moving forward. And that's the things that you have to do when you're starting all over is you have to be honest with yourself. Mm-hmm. And then once you get honest with yourself, you can really figure out where those anchors are in your own mental thoughts and then your outside relationships too. Sometimes it is your job that's holding you back. Maybe you have a supervisor or coworkers that don't understand your worth. You're being abused in your job, not like, I'm not saying like emotional or physical abuse, but I mean just dismissed and you're not really being utilized for your talents. Mm-hmm. Or maybe God has put it in your heart to write a book or to move on to another advancement, apply for a promotion, and you just haven't had the courage to do so. Those are things that are mental blocks in your own mind, anchors that you need to get rid of. Getting rid of toxic friends and family. And that is really hard because a lot of people take that as you have to get rid of people altogether. And sometimes you do. And when you're talking about losing relationships that are toxic, it's very hard because you're talking about people, the actual people that have feelings and emotions, but you can't fix people. And people have to take responsibility for themselves, and you can't take responsibility for them. So sometimes if it's truly a toxic relationship, you do have to let them go. But a lot of times if it's family members that you don't want to completely cut off out of your life, you have to set a boundary for yourself as far as how much you're going to let them affect you. We're not saying to just cut people out of your life like, oh, you make me unhappy, I'm not having you in my life anymore. That's immature. And so you have to learn how to set those healthy boundaries to not let them affect you mentally and emotionally where it's going to affect your decisions. So those types of anchors are what we're talking about. Yeah, for sure. And, when I think of anchor, I always think of like those fishing shows, right? The ones on like Discovery Channel and Channel, all that stuff, and I think to myself, like these guys that get caught up in their own heads and they drop anchor in specific spots and they just keep staying in these spots thinking that's just going to get better. Yeah. Just sooner or later, it's just going to get better. If you have a fish finder, it might. But even then, they're still like, they're just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And the next thing you know, you've spent 30 years in a horrible job or, connected to friends that are just dragging you and keeping you back. And what we have to be willing to do is pick up our anchor and say, you know what? It's time to move and drop anchor for a while someplace else. And that's why I think of pick up the anchor, because we have to be willing to shed the things that are holding us back. But that's us being willing, just going back to number one, being honest with ourselves. Now, if you get into a position, and Kristy can attest to this, when she started changing early on herself, she had people reach out to her and be like, who do you think you are? Like, who do you think you are? And when you start picking up your anchor and moving and getting rid of the baggage, sometimes that's breaking relationships and going from so-so friendship to better
friendships. And that's hard to break because it doesn't make those bad people, and it doesn't make the job a bad job. It doesn't make the circumstances necessarily bad. But if you're trying to change your life into a better direction, you got to get off the insanity merry-go-round, and you have to choose to pick up your anchor and move forward. And a lot of times what we do is we stay in the same place and we just keep expecting things to get better.
People were actually very, very
rude.
Mean. I called him. I was at work and someone had texted me and said, "Hey, is this still Kristy's phone?" And I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, blah, blah." And then she texted me this huge long thing telling me what an awful person I was. And I called him. I went outside and called him and was just crying. And I couldn't understand why people were being so mean when I was just trying to quit drinking. So like when Josh was saying sometimes you have to cut friends loose, it's not that I was cutting them loose. I was trying to let them know it had nothing to do with them. I just couldn't be in those situations anymore.
Yeah.
And since I thought that they were true friends of mine, I thought, of course they'll understand. Like, I have a drinking problem and I just can't put myself in situations that have drinking anymore. Like if they want to go out to dinner with me, or if we want to go out for a day of shopping or go out to breakfast, that would have been the safest thing because it's coffee and I didn't drink in the morning.
Yeah.
I thought, of course, people will understand, and they didn't. They thought that I was trying to say I was better. It's amazing because now that we do Celebrate Recovery, and I see people that do this, it's very, very common actually. A lot of people that quit, like using drugs or using pornography or gambling, any circle of influence that you're in that you said that's not good, and you're like, I don't want to be in this anymore. I want to start getting better. It's amazing because actually they turn on you and they try to start saying that you're trying to act like you're better than them, and it has nothing to do with them. It's actually very innocent. You're just trying to improve your life for you. And it's shocking how mean.
It's like the crabs in the bucket thing, right?
Cruel, just cruel. I had people just really being cruel to me. And it's sad because what people don't understand is I just didn't want to be around that situation, those situational things anymore.
Yeah, that environment.
Yes, thank you.
And we have to be willing. Yeah, and I'd say the crabs in the bucket because it's crabs, isn't it? Where
they start piling up on top of each other, and as soon as one's getting close to the top, they pull it back down.
Yep.
And that's a very similar situation.
It is. And we have to be willing to pull our anchor up and get out of those situations.
Yeah.
And that takes really, really, really difficult, heart-wrenching decisions to do that.
It reminds me of the story in the Bible where the guy is laying by the pool for like 30 years. And, once someone could stir it, one person could get in and they'd be healed. And he was laying next to her for 30 years and Jesus walks by and he's just like, do you want to get well? And of course, Jesus already knew the answer to that question, but he's asking him like, do you want to get well? And, the guy is just like, yes, I've been laying here and no one helps me and I can't make it in time and all this stuff. And it's like, Jesus, you can, there's an exclamation point in the Bible. He's like, pick up your mat and walk, and that is what it reminds me of. Like if you're sitting in a bad, I call it pools of pessimism. I think I got that from Brendan Richard. Pick yourself up and freaking walk in a direction. So that's what that story reminded me of.
Yeah, it's definitive choice. And that's what that story is telling us. Make a definitive choice. Pick it up and move. And
do you want to?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course I want to. No, because your actions speak louder than your words. And that's really that's such a powerful story. And it's shared 1,000 times in church because of the power that's behind it.
I've shared that with someone before when they've been in an abusive relationship with a man and they're just like, I'm really scared. I don't know what I want to do because what if he gets better? What if all this stuff? Yeah. And I looked at her and I said, deep down in our guts, we always know like really what we should do. We get scared about the actions we're going to have to take to get there. And it makes us nervous because it's hard. But we deep down know what we need to do. It's just, are you going to decide to do it or are you just going to prolong it? That's basically the two things.
It's true. All right. So the third thing, and this comes after pick up your anchor.
Yeah.
It is envision your future self. I love this one. This one Kristy did. That's a good one. I like this one. Envision your future self.
They actually could be either one of the pick up the anchor and the envision your future self could be either or, really.
Interchangeable.
Yeah, interchangeable. You have always all the good words.
All the words.
But envisioning your future self, again, we were talking about this before we started, and I'm like, I think a lot of people's problems is all humans is we get comfortable and we know we're comfortable with knowing what's going to happen, even if it's bad. Even if we know what the outcomes are going to be, it's comfort because we already know what to expect. And we don't like things that we don't know. And a lot of times when you have to start over, it's scary, or you don't choose to start over because you can't see yourself being that better self or that better situation or that better job or better relationship or better friendships. You truly don't believe or can't see yourself there. And a lot of times it's just a matter of you just have to start. You just have to pick up the anchor and you have to start going. And as you start going, it starts to become more clear and more clear and more clear. You start being more confident, and then you want to grow more and you want to do more things and give back and serve people. So envisioning your future self is very important, but it's hard because the unknown people don't like. That's why people stay in abusive relationships a lot of times is because they don't know. How will I?
Might be worse.
It might be worse. Well, you know where you're at is bad.
Yes.
So what? You don't know if it's going to be good or bad. At least you have a 50-50 chance. Here you have a 100% chance. You know it's bad.
Yep.
There you have a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, they're going from comfortable bad to uncomfortable bad.
Right.
That's what ends up happening.
And that just shows how much more we're comfortable with comfort.
It's sad.
It's
comfort
sad.
will kill you. Like, that's the truth. I think we read that recently somewhere. Comfort will kill you. What I like, and I know Kristy's used this before.
I probably made it up.
Is when probably, and she needs to come out with a book of things she's made up. So we've use this on people before when they say, I'm trying to quit smoking. Okay, you have to tell yourself you're not a smoker.
Oh, I didn't make that up.
You have to envision yourself different than what you are now. Look, we've all start somewhere. I read, and I wish I could remember the exact quote. And it said the most reasons why people don't change is because they're feared of being small in the beginning.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So nobody wants to be at the starting line of a new life. People want the results of it. That's what they want. We want the results. That's why we take a pill for this. That's why that's why we keep thinking that everything's got shortcuts to it, because we're not willing to put in the work. And when we start over, we got to start from the beginning again. But there's a lot of value in that, because if you got a helicopter ride to the top of Mount Everest and dropped off on the top of it, you'd be like, this is awesome. But if you climbed it, the journey that you had to take to the top of that would be, once you got to the top, would be a completely different experience than if you were dropped off by a helicopter.
Sean has a lot of good stuff that he's saying.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on here.
Sean, it's so funny because Zig Ziglar says fear stands for false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, I love that one.
I do too. And I've seen a couple other ones about fear, but I don't really remember what the acronyms are. You could look them up because there's a lot. But I do remember Zig Ziglar's about that, because a lot of times we're fearful of things that really never happen.
These are all good.
I know he's saying a lot of
Sorry, I'm
good
not even
stuff.
listening at this point. I'm like reading these. These are really good. Even CJ Kirby, at one point, I felt like I had 0 friends when I was changing my life. The honesty behind that is you probably didn't have any friends. It's not even that you don't feel like it. You're starting from the beginning again. We're starting from the beginning, but we have to envision what the future's going to be like. I remember telling my mother at 33 years old, I'm like, I will never have friends again. I will never be liked, and I'll never have a sense of humor. Like, I honestly believe that about myself. But once I got a little bit further into my sobriety and I started changing a little bit, I started envisioning myself differently. I started seeing myself as a different person. And I'm like, okay, I can go back to school. I'm in my mid-30s. Okay, listen, people, I'm still in school, and I'm 45. Like, I'm still hanging on to this dream.
He's going to finish.
But I'm not giving up, is my point. And you have to be willing to envision yourself. You have to. As hard as that is, because what we end up doing, if you're like us, and I know I can speak for Kristy, a lot of times we get in our own way by telling ourselves, don't lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself that. You're never going to be that. You're incapable of that. If you were going to be that, you would already be that. And that's just a lie from the enemy trying to keep us in a place where we can't make an impact. We can't be fruitful to the Spirit of God. Like, that's what that is. We have to be willing to envision ourselves in the future. What am I aiming for? How am I going to look in the future to that?
I was telling him the other, I think it was last night. I'm like, it's so funny because obviously our perfect role model that we need to go after, especially, if you're a Christian, is Jesus. But who could you really look at that's around here, like on earth, that has achieved or is farther ahead of you that you could possibly use as a role model in your own head? Because I was telling him it was so funny. Like, we watch Shark Tank a lot. I don't know if you guys watch Shark Tank, but it's a cool show if you don't watch it. But there's a lady on there, her name's Lori, and they call her the Queen of QVC. And I was telling him the other day, I'm like, if I get on my phone and start playing like a game on my phone, like Candy Crush or something. I don't play Candy Crush, but I know that's a big one. I'm like, could I really envision Lori, the Queen of QVC, laying in bed at night playing a game on her phone? No. She's probably, dud all her emails, do her businesses, get in bed, and then read a book a little bit and with glasses on, and then puts them over, closes it up, sips some tea, and goes to sleep.
Some chamomile.
Yes. So that's the things I think of. Like, I don't want to be wasting time. Now, of course, we all need those moments where we can shut our brain off. So those just mundane tasks that allow our brain to have a break, we all need those things. But it's very important not to be wasting valuable time doing something when you could be doing something productive, like learning and growing and doing things for yourself, like reading a book to inspire you and encourage you to be better or bigger than who you are, or reaching out to someone else and encouraging them, so it's just important not to get caught up, because the social media, I know we've talked about this on one of our other podcasts. What was that thing called on Netflix? The Social Dilemma.
Social Dilemma, yeah.
Those things like Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram and all those things are made to keep our attention. I mean, that's how they make their money, right? To get our attention. So it's very important not to allow those to steal from you the present time, like getting outside and praying and being in nature, spending time with your kids and really enjoying the moments of yourself. So, and that's where the self-improvement comes in. That's where, that's why they say, like, at work, get up every couple hours and go out and take a break and a breather and then come back, because your brain actually starts becoming more creative and more inventive, and it's actually more productive because you're not bogging it down consistently, or you're allowing moments for it to go free, because your brain wants to go free. It wants to learn. It wants to grow. And it's very important to do that, to become your future self.
Yeah, you do. You have to. And it is a little bit of creativity in the beginning. I love that you say that, because we have to be willing to look at ourselves in a way that we don't understand just yet. So we pick something or someone, like she said, the perfect model, of course, is Jesus, but pick somebody that is today, somebody that, today, not the perfect person. Everybody's got their faults. Yeah. Okay. Don't get caught up in that, but just say, hey, this person is where I'm looking to go. Let me model them, in some of the things that they do to help lift me into that direction. And when we start doing that, see, I was never a reader, and I'm actually still not really a reader.
No, he's not.
But I do consume content, right? But when I learned the way that I understand and I consume content, I learned Audible was a thing, and now it's just like I can't get enough of it. I mean, it's awesome. So, I find things that I'm interested in, and then I start following people. There's so many. There's Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard. There's so many people, Eric Thomas, all these guys that are just incredible motivators in so many ways, and that moves me, right? That moves me. That's not for everybody. And all these guys aren't perfect. They're got their own issues going on, but there's things about them that I do like and I want to model, so it helps me achieve, and it helps me move just a step closer. And so that causes me to be able to envision myself in the future, our future selves. Yeah. And it's hard to do. But it takes work, and you have to do it. So we want to leave you with a challenge today. And I think this is powerful. Pray for your future self.
Yeah, so it's very important I always pray for wisdom. And I want God to convict me. I welcome conviction. I get actually very thankful and grateful when I'm convicted about something, because that tells me where I need to go next and where the next level is going to come from, that God's going to take me to. So it's very important to pray for your future self. Allow God to know. He already knows, but you praying to God for the things that are on your heart, he put them there, and he'll change your heart towards one way or the other. Amen. That's the importance of prayer. A lot of people don't understand is that they're like, well, if God already knows, I've had people ask me this, if God already knows, then what's the point of prayer? And God wants us to pray because it changes our hearts. It's
not for him.
Yeah, it's not for him. So it'll change, and it'll reveal, and the Holy Spirit will reveal things to us in that prayer. If we're praying for something specific, all of a sudden our eyes will be open to something else. Yeah. Not necessarily the next day or even that time, but a month from now, 6 months from now, all of a sudden everything that you've been praying about, and wisdom, and all for wisdom and courage and all this stuff, you'll be like, oh, like all that you think all the stars have aligned. Yeah. And it's not true. It's God was aligning them to begin with. Yeah. And your eyes have just been open to it.
Yeah, I love that, because we a lot of times we forget to pray. We pray for so many other things. We pray for the problems we have today, but we forget to pray for the future, for ourselves in the future. Like, what is Josh going to look like tomorrow? How can I be the best version of what God wants from me? Do I need to be more confident? Do I need to have more wisdom when it comes to specific things? Do I need, pray for that? Pray for your future self. I think it's a big misstep when we are in prayer, is that we don't pray for the future of who God wants us to be in that. Did you find it?
Yeah. So I screenshot this quote too. But I would transfer the word wish with the word pray. So it says, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And it's Jim Rohn. And I would say, don't pray it was easier, pray that you'll be better, or pray that you'll be stronger. And I think that's just so powerful, because there's something to be learned out of every tragic or hard thing that happens in our lives. Not necessarily was caused by God. It was allowed to go through God's fingertips. We live in a broken world, and Satan does cause things to happen here too. And even the weather here is broken, right? So we live in a fallen world. But when hard things happen, no matter what it is, we stay true, stay strong, stay faithful. Once we get to the other side, we're stronger every time. It never fails. We are always stronger, wiser, and have grown from it.
Our goal each and every week that we do this, is to take our faith, our family, and our future to the next level. That is so true for us personally. When we get to review and talk about and go over this stuff, it's, what are you trying to do?
I wanted to do it. Sorry.
What are you trying to do?
I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted to put Sean's thing on the screen.
Oh, here, I can do that. So, but my point is that it's just really, really, really important that, when we talk about faith,
faith, family, future.
Faith, family, and future. You got me all tied up now. Faith, family, and future, it's not just for you. All these things, these are things that we apply and we use. If you have value, if you can add value, I see, Sean's adding, Tracy said something, Carrie did. There's people commenting on here. This is value. People go back and they watch these later. They do. Just because people aren't on right now doesn't mean they're not going to be at later. Add your value down in the comments. Add it. People need it. We all need it. We need it. So if you have something to add to these episodes, please make sure that you don't silence that voice that God gave you. Leave it down in the comments. It doesn't go away. They stay there forever, as long as Facebook will be around. Looks like they're going to be around for at least a couple more years. Forever. So please make sure that you do that. Don't forget to help, like, follow, share our episodes for us. It really does help us out. And
couple on fire.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, we will see you guys next Tuesday. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.